Hi there, Joseph Carabas here. You're shocked. We're listening to Phil Collins. Why are we listening to Phil Collins? Because I've enjoyed his music for a long time. Phil Collins, one of the top performers in the world. And I don't know if you know anything about how he is now, but he's can't sit for very long. He's got a lot of pain. Can't play the drums anymore. I don't even know if he's still touring. And it wasn't because he had a hard life. And he wasn't one of those, hard rockers, at least as far as I know. Made a couple of movies too. And I don't want to say anything. Caught myself. I wanted to talk today about surprise that you didn't know I was coming. Get really close to the screen. Come in here real close. Surprise. And this is about surprising yourself, giving yourself the freedom when you're writing to go off and trust the process, trust your process. I would imagine that surprising yourself with your writing is more of a challenge for pure plotters because they have everything structured out. They know what's going to happen. And based on the number of times I've talked about the difference between plotting and pantsing, you might get the impression that I don't like plotting. I do. I find it useful. I plot. It's kind of like a guidebook. And one of the ways I would describe plotting to me, the way I plot, is I want to know, I know I want to go from here to DC, Washington, DC. So I can plot my route, know which roads I want to take, know where I want to stop for break, for gas, whatever. And what happens in there is I may stop somewhere that I plan to go, take a break, and something catches my eye. This looks like an interesting town over there. There's an amusement park. There's a library that I've never been in. There's a museum. Looks like it has interesting stuff. Who knows what? Maybe I decide I want to go walk through a mall, give myself some time out of the car. So now all of a sudden we're back into pantsing, because who knows what I might do when I'm in the mall, in the museum, watching a movie, to pass some time, get out of the car. But eventually I'll get back in the car and continue my journey. I may go back to where I broke off. I may continue the journey from wherever I ended up. Okay. The surprise to me as a writer is when I take those little diversions, little sidetracks, because I know the major plot points before I sit down to write. I'm not always sure how I'm going to get from one to the other. Give you an example, working on Jerry and Betty, how Jerry and Betty became the least entertaining couple in the neighborhood. And I knew what the chapter I was currently working, the section I was currently working on is supposed to have in it. Didn't foresee the end scene. It just came out of me. It just happened. And when I wrote it, I went, wow. As I have said before, I didn't see that one coming. Then I did a quick check. Did it make sense? Or was it just me, scribbling away and needing to put words to page or something? No, actually, based on everything that happened before in the story, it did make sense. It was plausible. It could happen in the storyline. The next surprise for me, because that was a surprise to me, the next surprise for me is, well, where do we go from here? Because I do know what else has to happen in the story. I know the next plot points. And I had to say to myself, Does Jerry actually play? I just kind of gave it away, didn't I? Oh, spoiler alert. Does the character that surprised me play a role in the plot points that I know are coming up? Because I just assumed, yes, they did. But when I actually considered them and looked at my notes, no, they didn't. My goodness. What does it mean? What does it mean? So be willing to surprise yourself. Be willing to explore. That may be more difficult if you're on a deadline, I realize. But if you're on a deadline, chances are you've been given something to write to, an outline to write to. And if you're writing purely to an outline, you are being a plotter. That's fine. I will be willing to explore because to me, the joy is in the discovery, the surprise of those explorations, such as what happened to me yesterday. Didn't see that one coming. I wonder what this means for the rest of the story. Well, it could mean not much because what happened to a character doesn't really affect everything else I had written down. I suspect it will have some effect. Don't know how. Kind of interesting. And that's, to me, a very key thing. If I'm not interested in what I'm writing, no one else is going to be. My lack of interest will come through. I witnessed that many times when I was giving presentations at conferences and stuff. If I was giving a presentation on something that didn't interest me, I could have cared less. I was just standing on a stage, going through the motions. And I know it showed because people got fidgety in the audience. People were talking on their phones. They were walking out. But when I did a presentation on something that interested me, something that really caught my interest and gave me a fire, I was excited by it. And that excitement was communicated to the audience. And they were excited about it. Nobody was on their phones. Nobody was checking their mail or their messages. Nobody was looking for text, looking to see what was on the menu. They were locked on me. And that's what I want to do in a story. I want the readers to be locked on the story. To do that, I have to be interested in what I'm writing. Because if I'm not, I'm going to to and fro, which we've talked about before. And I know when I'm not really focusing on my writing, my craft, because I know I can see that I'm toing and froing. Don't do it. I'll put links in the post. Be willing to be surprised. Be willing to find out where the characters, the story want to take you. It could make your story better. If nothing else, it could provide something for another story. Be willing to be surprised. Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Let's try this again. Oh, come on, go bye-bye.